The first component is instead of doing all things and deprioritizing yourself, you are equally, and I actually argue, more important than anyone.
I have some questions for you. Hey, brave girl, how you do the things that you do?
Welcome to the Brave Talk Show. Brave women, bold topics, nothing is off the table. In today's episode, we are throwing away the good mom list, and we're talking about 3 ways to be the mom you were meant to be. Not her, not your mom's way, your way. It's a powerful episode, so if you like it as much as we think you will, smash that subscribe button so that you can connect with us on future episodes as well. First, we're going to do our favorite segment, and that is the hot topic for the day.
Got a good one.
And,
today.
we're talking about in this episode, rethinking motherhood and all that. So I want to ask a question that I think will just lend itself really well to the interview we're doing with Tracy Litt. And that is, do you judge moms based on their kids' behavior? Honest, you got to be honest, and then we can unpack it. Like, let's just be real.
Honestly, I think I kind of do. And it's so ironic. I need to go home and unpack this more. I think I need to go to a therapy session just for this, because I don't want people to judge me on my kids. And I actually remember I had this really powerful moment several years back where I was going through my postpartum depression after my 3rd baby, and I was just having this really terrible night. And I was like, you know what, Brittany? You're going to make a list of all of the things that don't affect your worth. And so I just started writing things down. Don't affect my worth, don't affect my worth, doesn't affect my worth. And on that list was how your kids turn out. Your kids' successes, your kids' failures. That has absolutely nothing to do with Brittany's worth and my worth as a human being. And so that kind of woke me up where I wasn't planning on writing that. It kind of just came out, and then I thought about it a lot, and I was like, that's so true. Whether my kid is a valuable member of society and wins the Nobel Peace Prize or is just the average person that doesn't, you know what I mean? That has nothing, that doesn't reflect on my worth at all. And so I know that that's true for myself, but I still find myself when there's a situation with a bully or another kid where I'm like, come on, Mom, did you, I just, and I hate that I do that, and I didn't think about it until you asked that question, but yeah, I totally find myself.
Well, I asked it because I think that a lot of women do. What about you, Marcella?
I've had a lot of experiences with this and a lot of self-reflection on this because, my oldest, she just doesn't do life the way I'm that's how you do life, right? She just does her own thing. And I always joke she'll probably be president of the world someday, honestly. But there's been a lot of moments that I think her behavior I took as my responsibility, and it wasn't how I would choose to conduct myself and my life. And I think for a long time I was taking that as I had failed. And so therefore it was a reflection of me. And then I was also worried that people would see this and then they'd think bad things about me, that either I hadn't mothered correctly or that I was that way. And
if your kid's a bully, you must be a bully
right.
too.
That's
from you.
Tricky. And so because I was judging myself, for sure judging other people, because I thought that's what our responsibility was. I thought kids were a reflection of how good we were mothering. And so, of course, when I saw a bratty teenager, I'd be like, well, your mom and I we would not be friends, right? And I think sometimes they are reflections of their mother. I think sometimes that is. But I would say for the most part, we're incorrect in judging mothers according to their children's behavior. And it wasn't until I separated my responsibility for her behavior until I stopped judging. I still have to catch myself.
Yeah.
But now I give all mothers a lot of grace because I need their grace. And I would hope that people give me the benefit of the doubt and that give me a chance as just an individual. And so I try to do the same for others, but it is hard.
Because you opened up to us earlier and you said you are the bully's mom.
Yeah, well,
Right? Like-
you know, I mean, I think all kids go through lots of phases. So several years ago, there were some instances, you know, and there were some instances that she was figuring herself out, as all 13-year-olds do, in very different ways. But I was called into the school, and there was a lot of drama happening, and she was doing her thing, and that is a place that I thought, you know, what do you do when your child is the mean person?
Yeah.
You know, and that was a position I'd never considered that I would ever be in.
We could do a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
What if your kids are the mean kids?
Totally. You know, for me, I think when I was younger and I didn't have kids, I was definitely like, my kid is not going to be like that. When I am a parent, I'm going to do this. And I remember I had like such big like dreams about like how things were going to be. And I remember telling my sister, who already had kids, about all like what my kids were going to be like and how I was going to be different from other parents. And I remember my sister just really, she's so amazing. She just looked at me and smiled. That's nice, Teresa. You just wait, you know. And I remember going like, I'm going to show her. But then, you know, I did all the things, right? I did all the things on my good mom list of what good parenting looked like. And, you know, yeah, my kids have done some things that I have been like, are you kidding me? I did not raise you to be that way. So I've had to learn, I've been humbled really quickly. And it's helped me, I think, to have more compassion for some people as well. Because I've seen some, like, people in my church who are, I mean, amazing people. Such amazing people. And I've seen their parenting, and their parenting is just like you could write a book on just what good parenting looks like. And I've watched their kids do some very bad things, you know? And, you know, when you see that, you go, okay, there's a disconnect here. We can't control them. Where I do catch myself being judgy still is not necessarily in the bad kids, because I've had my kids mess up, and I know I've messed up as a teenager a lot. But I do catch myself judging when I see a parent in the heat of a moment where there is a kid that is misbehaving, and I see them not discipline their kid in the way that I think should be disciplined. And honestly, I feel like I'm pretty open, like, hey, just try. Like, most of my judgment is for the parent who does nothing at all, but there is some judgment. And I have to admit, like, has there been times, Teresa, where you did nothing because you were exhausted, you had given up, you had checked out because you were just like so frustrated with the moment or whatever? Like, yeah, actually I have. So I wonder how many parents have like judged me in those moments where maybe I was being more permissive for whatever reason. So something to think about.
Okay, so I'm going to drag this on a little longer. What if in that moment, and I'm asking if this would be a better situation to do or a better mindset to have.
Okay.
You see somebody, not that I do it, so I'm not saying like, Teresa, do this. I'm just asking if would this be better. You see somebody not disciplining their child the way that you would. Mm-hmm. Would it be a better mindset, instead of judging them, to instead be like, if I were them, I would do this?
Ooh, use it as a learning moment for yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, how can I learn from this situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would
so
be
that
good.
mom's toddler's freaking out in the grocery store.
Mom doesn't take the kid out.
Yeah, mom.
But would I
just
take?
kind of
What would I
ignoring
do?
it, whatever. Yeah, instead of being like, "Oh, that mom is," or you see a kid without a jacket. I know I grew up with my mom doing that. My mom still sees kids without jackets, and she's like, "That's a terrible mother."
Oh.
And
I have begged my kids, put on a jacket,
Yep.
and they're like, no, I don't want to wear a jacket, and they run out. So I feel bad for those moms, but I have to admit, a lot of times
She probably fought.
I say to my son, I know that you don't want to wear a jacket, but put on a jacket so that I don't look like a bad mom. I've said that with my mouth.
I have literally said that. Like, you have to brush your hair because your teacher will think that I haven't bathed you in 5 days.
Yeah. So we make it ends up being like
a selfish thing. I think the more that we allow ourselves to be individual mothers to our individual children, the more grace and the more space we allow all the other mothers to be doing what they need to be doing. We have no idea. When you see a kid freaking out in the grocery store, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Maybe that mother literally just lost her husband.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
You don't know if that kid has, like, maybe that's like the calmest they've been all freaking day, and the mom's like, hallelujah, like, you're not biting me.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with this. You know, like, I did not learn this until my child was grown, and I finally realized no amount of discipline, none. Like, literally, it sounds insane still. Zero amount of discipline is what she needs.
But your other kids are not the same.
My other kids are not the same. But all she needs from me is me being like, come as you are. All of it. Yep. Mm-hmm. I will hold space for all of this. And when it gets to be a space where, like, I shouldn't be there, I remove myself, if that makes sense, right? But we have to give first ourselves the space to allow to be a mother in a way that we have never seen in a book before. And the only way we can allow other people to be mothers like that is if we're practicing it and realizing it's okay.
So let me ask you then, last question just to kind of wrap it up. If you were that mom, okay, in the grocery store with the screaming toddler, and you were overwhelmed and, you know, maybe something awful happened earlier that day and you weren't doing anything. If I had come up and just said to you, like, just looked you in the eye and said, Mama, I totally understand what you're going through, or something like that, or Mama, I get you, would you be offended? Or would that be like, would you feel like that was a passive aggressive judgment?
But that's not your responsibility.
You're right.
I think one of the questions that has shifted for me is that if I see a situation that feels like, I ask myself, how can I be useful?
Yeah.
And if internally it feels like I can be useful by saying something, I'll say something. And however they deal with it, that's their own deal.
Right.
Or sometimes I can be useful by not judging them and walking away.
Right.
Really quick story. Do we have time for a story really quick? Okay, so my sister, we were talking about this idea of how can I be useful and how it shifts like your entire experience. My sister was sitting with her 6 kids in a Walmart parking lot waiting for these 2 older women to pull their car out, right? Like she needed a close spot. She had to carry all these children in. They were taking forever. And we've always been in that, like, we're all like, what the crap are they doing? Like, what could they possibly do?
Are they being slow just because I'm here?
Out, right? And she was like, she's like, I paused. I noticed what was going on in my head. I took a breath and I thought the question, how can I be useful? Next thing I know, car's in park. I get out of the car. I asked the woman, is there anything I can do? Like, can I help you? And it was these 2 older women that were trying to strap car seats into the car so they could pick up their grandkids. And they didn't know how to buckle the car seats in. And my sister was like, let me help. Click, click, done. The women were like, oh, we would have been here forever. Oh my gosh, thank you, thank you. I have literally used this story like 100 times. It's probably gonna be in the book. But like that moment shifted everything for her. So I think when you see a mom that you think like your first reaction is like, oh, that's not going well. Like just ask yourself, like, can you be useful?
Yeah. I wonder and I wonder if it could initiate another, like just based on their reaction. So you kind of test the waters with Mama, I totally get you. And if she looks like, thank you, and she receives that, like you could even go one step further and say, I'm happy to hold your cart for you and just kind of keep it here if you want to talk with him or not. Like totally here, no pressure.
Is there anything I can do to help?
Yeah, or something like that. Like, but you obviously have to like kind of test to see how do they receive the first part, but then you could, if they're open, like you could be totally able to help them in the second one. So,
but I would probably just rather you not do anything. Or we need like a Hunger Games sign, like.
That's a good one. Just look at her, just like I get you. Yeah,
I got you. I've been there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need like a smile. Sometimes you're just like, you're good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think moms react differently all the time. You know, I don't remember where I was. I was somewhere and some kid was throwing a fit, and I started talking to the kid, hoping the mom wasn't going to be like, you know what I mean? I was just trying to like distract the child from like being all crazy, and it worked. And the mom was like, we were like, we got
Or
you.
you could have had the
It was
reaction where the
great.
mom's like, don't talk to my kid. Don't talk to strangers, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you just...
And
I like your
that's
question.
You have to just
be
go
you.
with it.
How
Some
can
people
I
are going to be
useful?
jerks.
Yeah, just be you, and then they take it how they take
Yeah.
it. That's good. All right, so let's jump into the heart of our episode today, and that is a paradigm shift for working moms with our special guest, Tracy Litt. Tracy is a sought-after success mentor for visionary women leaders that are navigating huge paradigm shifts and elevating to that next level of themselves. I know Tracy because we are in the same mastermind, and I love everything that she does. She's a science and spirituality teacher, a rapid transformational hypnotherapist, best-selling author, and a TEDx speaker. Her work has served thousands of women across the globe, and she's been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, Fast Company, Thrive Global, you name it. Her book, Worthy Human, is the #1 bestseller in spiritual growth and mindset. She's the founder of The Lit Factor and the creator of Mind Magic, and we are thrilled to have her with us today. Tracy, so good to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So I got to ask Tracy, I know we're in the same mastermind group, but we end up talking a lot in our group about, business and the lives that we're changing, but I've never learned from you. How did you get into mindset coaching like you do?
When I finally acknowledged that I was slowly dying internally in my corporate job, which is a very common story these days, and moved through the fear to leap into going to coaching school. I had researched so many modalities all in the service space. And when I found coaching, I had no idea even like what personal growth and development was. And I'm sure you ladies can relate. You find something and you go into the wormhole online, and then all of a sudden you're like, what is this world I'm in? And I started learning about coaching and growth and healing. And it all took off from there. I went back to school, manifested a layoff from that VP of Human Resources job, launched the Lit Factor, and we have been serving women globally ever since that day.
Oh, that is awesome. I love it. Now, did you find, because I know we're going to be talking a lot about, the mindset shift that a lot of working women, the paradigm shift that we really need to have to be able to level up ourselves. Did you find that naturally affected your parenting as well when you were going through your growth?
Yes, and it was really interesting. In certain spots it did. I didn't have a lot of guilt work to do. As we heal, grow, and expand, we identify certain emotional addictions that we have to liberate energy from so that we can embody the emotions of the woman we're becoming instead of the woman we've been. What I found for me was the moments where I would hedge and hold back from going to that retreat, from, leaning into that risk, from making that choice because of the tinge of what about the kids? What about the kids? And it didn't become my awareness of mom guilt and our desperate need, going to be really clear here, our desperate need in the 21st century to have a new paradigm of motherhood, because the one that has been practiced and influenced and embodied up until now was 20th century motherhood. Mm-hmm. And it was through all the women I've been serving that the just, wow, how many of us hedge, hide, don't go after it, delay our dreams, and do not reach the fullest expression of ourselves or our potential because of the mom guilt. What about the kids?
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Yeah.
So there is a way to do both then.
Oh, yes.
And is that what Expander, because you started this new program for moms. It's called Expander Parenting. Is that what this is about? It's about learning how to do both. Tell us about Expander Parenting.
So Expander Parenting itself isn't a program. It is a brand new paradigm that I created, which I'm really proud of, because when you show up and you are a leader, a thought leader, a guide, a mentor, a coach in the human growth and potential space, when you hit on something that is brand new, when you recognize and create something that is going to make such a massive contribution, it's extremely exciting. And this is that. The origin of it is I was actually working with a woman inside of Mind Magic, which is our core container for incredible visionary women leaders. And we were having a fear of success conversation. And in the conversation, she recognized, wow, the reason why I'm not taking it to that next level, and she had already done tremendous growth, was because of this mom guilt over what happens to her young boys if they have to move school districts because the company is now expanding. She wants to have more land. She wants to do all these things. And it was actually holding her back. And in that moment, I was just like, no, I like to disrupt things and I like to question everything. And it is not okay with me to witness a woman shrink because she's judging that she's not measuring up to an outdated, unhealthy paradigm that was something our grandmothers needed to subscribe to. And literally in that moment in a Facebook thread, I was like, well, how about this? What if, and this is the crux and underpinning of what expander parenting is, what if the way that we really fully love our children the most is by being the fullest expression of who we are and accessing our capacity in this lifetime?
Amen. Like,
Isn't that
Tell me things. Tell me things.
Isn't that what we want for our kids? Isn't that what we want them to grow up and do? We want them to live their fullest version of themselves. And how would they ever know how to do that if they don't see us do it ourselves?
I wish I was there because I would tackle you with love hugs right now. That's exactly the point. We are so autopilot. We are so conditioned. We are so head down, constant stress, not thinking about it. And we live in a society that condones that and perpetuates that. And what you just stated is what was happening for me. It's like, this makes no sense. So you're telling me you want an empowered, confident, contributing member of society who's going after their dreams and living big and being who they are, but who you're modeling is the direct opposite of that.
oh my gosh, I've had the craziest experience over the last year. Couple of years. So I have a teenage daughter who moved out to live with her dad, and it crushed me. I thought I had failed her. I thought I had failed as a mother, and I had to dig really deep and connect with my heavenly parents to really understand, like, where had I failed. And what I came to understand was that if I kept trying to fix her, I would cease to be what I was created to be. Like, that my job was not to fix her. My job was to be exactly who I am. And that by being that, I would create more light in the world that my daughter lived in. Right? Like, I was no longer her laundry doer, her dinner maker. I was nothing that I would have said was, this is how you be a good mom. None of those things were available to me to do for her. And I had to completely, the idea of being her mom was destroyed. Like, I didn't even have any of those tools that I thought led to me being a good mom, and I had to recreate all of it. And one of the things that came up was I started going to an adult hip-hop dance class, which anybody would be like, that has nothing to do with being a good mom. Like, that literally, takes away from being a mom. It disrupted our evening. But what happened was I would come home from my dance classes thinking I was being selfish and going to them. And everyone would say, Mom, show us your dance. And what was a boring Wednesday evening turned into Mom showing off her awesome new dance. And it lit up the whole house. Just like it would if your kid came home to practice their thing, it lights everybody up. And I realized, oh my gosh, they don't need more dinner making. They need me showing up with my stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. And what a gift for you to have experienced that. And I'm so happy for you that you went after it, right? You're doing the work, you're digging in on yourself, you're growing. And at the end of the day, energy is everything. And when you show up in a higher level resonance, which is exactly what happened when you come home from hip hop class, right? Now you're more joyful. Now you're more loving of yourself. Now you're more chill. Now you're more easygoing, which means you're not in a stress state. We have to consider what happens, right? So what is like a good mom? Because my call is, please stop being a good mom. Please, everybody, just bag the whole thing. Stop being a good mom, because good mom is how it was trained to us, is sacrifice. It's martyrdom. It's the deprioritization of self. It's be all things to them because that's how you know you love them. What are the emotional states that a woman feels when she is in sacrifice, in martyrdom, and not prioritizing herself?
Oh, yeah.
Depression,
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then now the kids grew up thinking, yeah, my mom was nice. I mean, she made us dinner and she does laundry, but she just never seemed happy. I wonder if she loved me. Like those types of things can start happening, I think, too. Where it's like, how come she didn't seem like she was joyous even with around me? Was there something I did? And then and now you've got this generational curse that's kind of passing down from one generation to the next, and your kids got issues that you never even planned to make. You had good intentions with it, but they didn't know because they don't know all that's going on up here.
1,000%. And that's ultimately, how our belief systems come to be. One of the biggest components is what's happening in our first family, in our upbringing. And if you're in observation that your mother is not happy, it is highly likely that your subconscious mind between the ages of, really third trimester in the womb till 7 years old internalizes that as, if I was better, she'd be happier. If I mattered more, she'd be happier. If I was more perfect, she would be happier.
Oh, terrible.
So it's so deep and so wide as to why this is so important. And something else you just said too, Teresa, which is always, this is like a funny after part of this. So now you've lived your life in the good mom paradigm, right? Because essentially the day you became a mother, you like denounced yourself as a woman. And now the kids are leaving and going to college. So you spend the next 3 to 5 years in empty nest depression, giving more of your life away, right? Like it just doesn't make sense.
A perpetual cycle of like codependence.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that while you were saying that, it's your children aren't going to grow up and want to be like, oh, I can't wait to be a mom, because they're like, no, my mom was miserable and always sad and unhappy, and I don't want to be a parent, because that's what it equates, right? One of my favorite quotes that changed so much for me was, be an adult woman that makes your daughters excited to grow up and be an adult woman. So be the example. I want my daughters to grow up and be like, I can't wait to be an adult woman, because I can do this, I can do this, I can go after my dreams, and I can be a mom, and I can do all of these things. Like it all fits together, and I want my sons to think that their wives can go after their dreams, and not to think that their wives should just stay at home and do the dishes all day. And who's supposed to teach that to them? Me. I need to model that for them. I need to be an adult woman that makes my daughters excited to grow up and be an adult woman.
That makes so much sense, because one of the things I'm seeing a lot with our youth, and it really even started with our generation. I'm like a borderline Gen X millennial, like I was right on that cusp. So, but I think you guys might be more millennial with that generation, but you've probably saw it too, where a lot of our friends kind of they either were like, oh, I want to be a mom, or I want to work. But it was like a hard idea of like, oh, I want to do both. And you can do both, but then now we're seeing these kids who now looked at their parents, didn't like what their mom was like because she seemed guilty or depressed, and so now they're like, well, I don't want to be a mom, like you're saying, I'm going to work instead. And then we're seeing this brokenness in these families oftentimes as well, that it doesn't have to be that way. And I love this idea then of this new paradigm shift. So tell us, what does this new life look like? How do we do both? And what are some of the advice that you give the ladies in your groups?
Absolutely. So I want to even expand it beyond both.
Okay.
I want to invite all women, really all humans, but we're talking about women, to consider themselves as a tapestry, right? So whatever your perceived identity will become. It influences every element of how you show up, your beliefs, your thoughts, the way you think, the way you speak, et cetera, et cetera. So look at your identity as multifaceted. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a sister. I'm a sensual lover. I'm an empire-building entrepreneur. I'm a great friend, right? All of these components. Because then you really get to honor all the elements of yourself. And that's what leads to being fully expressed and like accessing your capacity. And that's what we want to show our kids, to the point that we're all making here. We're all singing the same war cry. And the reason why this is like the most important, because there's so many reasons why this is just like, wow, really important, is ultimately our generation, I foundationally believe we are in a consciousness revolution, and we have a divine responsibility to actively do different so that we can create the generational change that we all talk about. We all talk really, really great. I like to teach you how to walk that way too. So to that point, the first component is, instead of doing all things and deprioritizing yourself, you are equally, and I actually argue more important than anyone. I see myself as the most important relationship of my life. I'd like you all to see the same, because when you can see through that lens, you love and you honor and you do for yourself. And when you're nourishing and nurturing yourself, then you are inherently the best version of yourself for all of the people that you get to love and pour into. So the first component really has to be, whoa, I'm the most important player in this game. How does that, what comes up for the three of you when you hear me say that?
Immediately, my religious upbringing tells it gets triggered to say, no, that's selfish. That might make me arrogant. It might make me unloving, because I'll put myself before others, and I'm supposed to instead be loving, and I feel better if I'm serving others and not so focused on myself, because then I can get wrapped up in my own head and my pity parties and all of that. That was all that happened in about 2 seconds of thinking.
Yeah.
What about you?
I love that. And that is an extremely common response, and it makes so much sense. And it also is oppressive and not okay. Because what about loving ourselves first, right? It doesn't have to be all the way down to the end of the spectrum. It's healthy selfish. It's recognizing that when you don't prioritize yourself at the top, you become a lesser version of who you can be, which means your kids are getting the bite their head off resentful version of you. Your spouse is getting the eye roll version of you. Your team that you lead is getting the jacked up nervous system version of you. Like what's the point in any of that?
For me, it brings up things about surrendering, where I'm a control freak and I like to control situations and people around me. And I'm a people pleaser, and I like to make sure everybody's happy. I'm a type 1 personality. And so I want to control all these different situations, but really that just breeds unhappiness for me and for those around me. And so what I've learned is I need to surrender everybody else's happiness, everybody else's moods and their outcomes and their feelings, their opinions, and I just need to focus on my relationship with me. And if I'm happy, I'm not responsible for my husband's happiness, he's not responsible for mine. And so that's where I see that fit into what you just said. You are the top priority, whereas I'm the only one that I can control.
Yeah.
I'm the only one responsible for Brittany. Brittany's not responsible for Teresa or Marcella or Benton or any of her children. Brittany's responsible for Brittany, and that's what I can control. And when I control me, and when I'm in line with me and what I need, then everybody else is happier too. And that's just like a natural outcome of it, because I don't take it on me.
That's powerful.
It's so powerful and so beautiful. And I just want you to know I'm a recovering control freak. I could be the president of the club. And the other part of what you just said that's so magical and significant is that is part of the old paradigm. A good mom is responsible for everybody's happiness. Didn't you know that? Right? And think about what a trap that is, because that's impossible no matter what, right? Yeah. And then it can only breed more control. And when we take a look at control and what it does to the system, control feels like this on the inside.
Yes.
Right? It's absolutely not. We get to be expanded. We are intended to be expanded. We can trust and surrender because no matter where your something bigger than you belief system lies, we all agree there is something bigger than us. And you can rest into that.
Yes.
That makes sense. Earlier I had brought up that whole like religious upbringing and so forth, but I'm even thinking with what you're saying, if I were to go back to the Bible, I think there was a verse, I don't remember which book it was in, but Jesus said to love others as you love yourself, which doesn't suggest that like you're supposed to love yourself. Even God says that's okay, that you can love yourself. And so I think we get so wrapped up into the loving others part that we forget the first part of that phrase.
So this is so interesting because this is how I learned how to love my daughter at 15 unconditionally. I thought that when you become a mom, you just automatically love your kids unconditionally, and that was not the case for me because at her being 15, I was broken and realized that I had just judged her and controlled her, and she wasn't doing it the right way, and therefore she was gonna not be happy my way, and I had to learn how to love me. I had to learn that I was exactly who I was supposed to be, even though my child wasn't doing what I thought she should be doing. And as soon as I learned that I was loved with all my broken pieces, my good and my bad and everything, I remember the very first time we hadn't talked for 3 months. And we sat across from each other at a Chick-fil-A. And I remember her telling me all this story about something that happened at school. And I realized in that moment that I was sitting there and I wasn't picking her apart. She could just say whatever she wanted. She could be lying, she could be dramatic, she could be whatever. Her makeup could look weird, her skirt was too short. I did not care. She existed. And it was like, sorry.
No, be
It was
there.
the first moment that I loved all of her exactly how she was in that very moment. And I remember we went shopping and we were laughing, and it was like this moment that I thought, oh my goodness, and I could only have that because I accepted me. And I knew that that was possible to accept everyone as they stood where they were. They didn't need to fix anything about them, but it had to come from me knowing that I was loved, not fixing myself. Yeah. And so what you say is just, it was life-changing for me to love myself first.
Yes. First of all, I just need to be with you on this too, because this is what we all need more of.
Yeah.
The spaces to go to these places and to acknowledge the things that that have been our lived experience. And I sit with you, I commend you, and I'm so grateful that you showed up like this. And it is to that exact point when you were able to recognize the truth of your inherent wholeness. And the word inherent is very critical here. Wholeness, worthiness, enoughness all mean the same thing. And it is your birthright. We do not earn our wholeness, our worth, our enoughness. We simply are it because we are breathing here together, watching, listening, fact. And when we are coming from our own wholeness, we aren't susceptible to all those things you mentioned, the judgment, the control, because what happens, and this was a big one for me too with my daughter, was there were moments where I was recognizing that I was allowing who she was being to influence my worth. And that's something that is part of the work, right? Because when we're not in our wholeness, then everything influences it, including what's going on for our children. Because once again, we're supposed to be responsible for it, right? Shouldn't our children be a reflection of us? Yeah. And if everything on the outside influences my value on the inside, that must include my kids.
And the irony is that comes from an attempt to trying to be selfless, but in fact, it's actually selfish.
Yes.
Because we're making everything about ourselves.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure that we're a good mom, that our kids are looking like we're a good mom, and that all the others' moms are looking at us like we're a good mom. I shared a story with you guys before we got here that I sat in a principal's office because my child was being disciplined for her conduct. And the teacher was looking at me like, aren't you going to do something? But luckily, I had gotten to a place where I was there because I said I would be there supporting my child, but I did not have any ownership of how she was acting. It was that she got to act how she acted. I taught her better than that, and I knew that. I walked out of there not beating myself up. I walked out an entirely whole person, right? Like I wasn't in there hoping to be looked at as like, good job, mom, like you handled that well. Like, no. In fact, I probably would look at that person that sat in there and be like, you're not even parenting. Like I would probably judge myself. But that was how me, as I am, was supposed to show up in that moment for her to own her own stuff. And I love what you're doing because I think the only way that we see what this looks like is when you do it and when you do it, right?
Yeah.
Like what you're saying is it's going to look very, very different. There's literally not going to be a good mom book anymore because it's
Correct.
what your version looks
that
like.
makes sense.
Yes, 1,000%. I mean, all the things you're saying and how much it's, living in the good mom outdated paradigm means that your most common emotional states are judgment, shame, and guilt.
Ouch.
Right, but really?
It's true. Yeah.
You want to sign up for that?
Nope.
No, thanks.
No, thank you. All right, so you gave us the first one, and that one is that we are the most important person in our lives. That's the first shift in our thinking.
We are. Second shift is ask for help. What? I know it's like, is she ripping my arm off my body right now? We are so masterful. Good moms are so masterful at multiple plates, spinning. I got it. And I'll bake 3 dozen cupcakes for school. Don't you worry. That's a big no. So we start to employ others, right? The old school, it takes a village. Yes, let's access that village because this is like a incredible inherent benefit of working this practice as part of this new paradigm. When you ask for help and you allow the help, like example, what would be great? Could you pick up Johnny and take him to school the next 4 mornings? And it's going to feel very, very quote wrong at first because it's so unfamiliar for you to receive help. But once you ask and then you receive, you're actively working your receivership muscles. And receivership is actually your ability to let in support, to let in help. And that raises your frequency and directly connects you to the abundance that is available, abundance in time, resources, money, and everything else.
That's powerful.
So I was a nanny when I was 19. And, I came from this culture where it was like you're a stay-at-home mom and everybody sacrifices everything that you can so that you can be a stay-at-home mom because that's like the most worthy place that a woman can be. And I thought that. I believed that. I grew up in that. And then I became a nanny in New York and I watched this mom go to work every single day, and she had a nanny, and she had a house cleaner, and she had a tutor, and she wasn't at every game, and she didn't even make cookies. I was like, you are failing at motherhood, and let me help you. This like totally prideful 19-year-old that knows nothing. I was like, I'll step in. And I remember one day I asked this 13-year-old that I nannied, I said, don't you miss your mom? Don't you want her to be home? And I remember her being like, what would she do? No, I don't miss my mom. Like my mom's out there like running this amazing company. Like I'm so proud of my mom. And they were good kids that thrived, that got good grades. They were good, hardworking people. And I remember thinking like, wait, I thought if your mom didn't stay home, then like your kids would go to hell and they'd be like these horrible humans. And it was just this slap in the face, like wake up call that like, oh, wait a minute, there's a different way of being a mom. She did exactly what you're saying. Like she had all of this like village that she had created that allowed everyone to thrive. It was amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. And it's so nice to have these conversations because what we're introducing you to is a new choice. It doesn't mean you have to choose it. But for those of you that are listening and you're resonating, everything's like, yes, yes, yes. There's another way to do this game, right? And the third thing that I wanted to share, which actually weaves right into what you just said, is the practice of quality over quantity. So the beautiful example you just gave, she had all that help. Now, what about the connection that is critically important for us to have with our children and that we desire because we love them and they love us? I play quality over quantity.
Yep.
I don't need to see your face every single night at the dinner table. So that it's just, and nobody really wants to be there. I have 3 teenage daughters, so I'm in that phase also of life. But quality over quantity means let's spend 3 hours with no devices, sitting on the back patio, actually connecting, talking about things, going deep, really being together, uninterrupted. And if you try this on, it satiates at such a deeper level because you're not thinking about all the things that you got to do in the back of your head. You're not like sort of working and sort of hanging out. You're not, right? You're just so present. There is a satisfaction. It's like a feeling of returning to the mothership and plugging back in. And then everybody can go about their business and then come back together for some quality later on.
I love that. When I was, before I was an entrepreneur, I was a teacher. So I've always done the whole, work element of motherhood. And I was so excited when I quit my job teaching to come home because, I was able to spend more time with my kids. But, I'm still working, but I work from home. But I get to do all the things that I didn't get to do before. I get to take my kids to school in the morning. I get to help them with their homework afterward and so forth. But when I came home, I also got this feeling that because I was home that I needed to be the one to do all of the housework and so forth, like the laundry and things like that. So when my husband got sick, my husband has stage 4 cancer, and there's a lot of dietary changes that you want to make when you're fighting cancer. And really, you should probably do it so that you don't get cancer, but that's a whole other side note. But one of the things that I was frustrated with is that it's a vegan diet, so there's a lot of vegetables. And I wanted to spend time with the kids when they got home after school, but it's like there's all these vegetables to cut up. So I'm like spending all this time prepping this food, and I felt like I'm not able to spend time with the kids, but I need to do both because I need to show love to my husband. But it's just all the good mom, good wife, I think, paradigm that we're breaking. But Owen had suggested to me, he said, why don't you find a local teenager to come over and chop the vegetables for you? And I remember I actually had to go through some weird mindset stuff of, but that would make me a bad wife. That would make me a bad mom. And then he helped me see it. He goes, yeah, but he's like, does that bring you joy? Do you love chopping the vegetables? If you do, then great. I'm like, no. He's like, well, then who cares? Have her do it. And then now you can actually spend time hanging out with the kids like you want to. It was huge for me. So I did. I hired her, and she's been such a great help. And I know that didn't you recently hire someone to help you with laundry? And Brittany stays home as well. She's got an amazing retreat. I guess it's a business, right? It is a business. So she holds retreats for women, and it's big on mindset and all of that too. But she also, for the most part, I would say 80% of your schedule is
being a stay-at-home
being
mom.
a stay-at-home mom, right?
I love cooking dinner for my family. I love our family dinners. I love picking my kids up from school and having that carpool ride home. I literally love being a stay-at-home mom, and it would make me really sad to go to work.
Right.
And so I love what you're saying, Tracy, because I feel like this paradigm shift makes room for everybody.
Everyone.
I don't have to be a working mom, and I don't have to be a stay-at-home mom only, and I don't have to be both. I can just find the type of mom that I want to be. I want to be the mom that at 5 o'clock every day, I am in the kitchen cooking. My life literally stops, you guys, at 5 o'clock, and I start cooking dinner.
And that brings you joy.
And it brings me so much joy. And then we sit down at 5:30 and we eat together as a family, and that brings me so much joy. And then I'm there for bedtime and different things. But then I also go on these amazing weekend retreats and adventures, and I don't have any problem telling my husband, hey, you've got the kids tonight, I'm leaving, or a day like today where I'm here filming and somebody else has my kids. I love my balance, and I feel like that's what's perfect for me and makes me the best mom. And like I just love that there's room for all of us. And there's no good mom book, right?
Right?
Correct. I love that. And it's such an important point that you're hitting on, because it's what feels best to you. If you are feeling joyful, if you are feeling fully expressed, if you are feeling like you're nurturing and nourishing yourself, that's the only barometer there is. Right?
You're right. Like
No one
laundry
gets to
brings me
tell
no
you.
joy, zero.
So you outsource it.
So I have help for that type of thing, right?
So exactly. And the fun part also of asking for help and working with others is you're also pouring into others. You're also helping the economy, right? Like be abundant about it. Pay someone to do your laundry, like you're saying. Pay someone to chop the vegetables. Pay someone to clean the house. Pay someone to all the things. It's just such a beautiful economy to be in as well.
Like the lady that comes to clean my house, at first I was like, I don't know, like her son is friends with my son, and I was like, is this weird? I don't know. It was just like the dynamic was a little bit weird, and then I realized this is her business. This is like someone coming and supporting my business and like buying some of my stuff. I was like, yeah, come clean my house. Like, I support you. And we would chat business all the time. Like, how can she get more customers? And while she's like cleaning my bathrooms, and I was like, this is awesome, like teamwork, you know? And I think we forget that. We forget that us building, you know, having people come and help us is us supporting them. One thing that you said that was a big shift for me was giving myself permission to ask, what is happy for me, or am I happy? Because I think in my religion, I grew up being told this will make you happy. And so I felt a responsibility to live this lifestyle, and I was told, if you live this lifestyle, you will find the most happiness. And so then when I wasn't, I was like, something's wrong with me. I'm not doing it right. Because if I was doing it right, then I would have the happiness that they said that I would feel fulfilled. And I think a lot of people that I know have either been taught by their mom, maybe their mom found the happiness and the fulfillment in it, and so they feel like they're supposed to. And the question you're asking is so important, just allowing yourself to even ask, like, is this right for me? Right?
Yes,
and it goes all the way back to the first question. Like, if you love yourself, then you're willing to ask, right? It's so good.
Yes,
It's so
yes.
necessary.
And you're willing to be honest, because in all of the beautiful women that I've served, your first answer is not the truth. You have to actually love yourself unconditionally enough to go deep, deep inside yourself to have the courage to say, this doesn't actually make me happy. I've been convincing myself that it does because it made my mom happy, or I'm still vying for my father's approval, even though I'm 47 years old. And I think okay. And then that's what makes growth work not a luxury. It is absolutely a necessity and a requirement for every spiritual being having a human experience, which is the scientific truth of who we are, so that we can uncover and, dare I say, live our own lives, like the one that aligns with you. Yeah.
So good.
So good.
Yeah. All right. So you've given us 3. I'm going to rehash them for our audience. 1, you are the most important person. 2, what was the second one? Because I'm now jumping all ahead.
Ask for help.
Ask for help. And then the third?
Quality over quantity.
Quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. I love your conversations with your daughters in the backyard. There's a book that I read called like the family boardroom. Have you heard it?
I have not.
Oh
but
my
it sounds
gosh.
amazing.
So it's called The Family Boardroom. It's a very easy read. It's very short. But basically, the guy talks about how he would have a date with each one of his kids. And a lot of times we do dates, right, with our kids. But what he found was that oftentimes what you find, and I see it all the time, is that you go to like the nickel arcade or whatever, and you see the dad with his daughter or his son, and the kid's playing the nickel arcade, and dad's on his phone. And it's a date, right? But is it really? Like, is it really, or are you kind of present, but you're really doing other things? And so what his argument was is that once a quarter, so just like your business, if you have a business, you often have these quarterly meetings where you look at everything and all that. So once a quarter, you get together and you do a full day with your kid, one of your kids. And it's a time to reflect together. There's a no screen rule. And typically he recommends doing something that your kid really wants to do versus what you want to do, because it's a way to connect with them. Even if it's something that you don't like, if they, but you do it because you're the adult, right? And you're doing it to really connect with your kid. But no screens, and you really just talk with them. And it's kind of similar to what you were talking about with your experience with your daughter, Marcella. It's not a judgment time. It's not a correction time. It's a time to just talk and connect and get to know them and let them share what's going on. And you do it through this activity, whatever it is, and no screens and complete presence. And that quality, that one date that you had with them, that once quarter, can just fill their cup and your relationship for that whole time. If you have multiple kids, you're going to have to do it a few times that quarter with each child. But just the monumental transformation that can happen in your relationship with your kids with these dates. So anyway, read the book, and so I'm working on my calendar, and I'm talking with my daughter and my sons about what they want to do on their dates. And I'm not going to make my husband do it. And he does his own thing. He does donuts with dad on Saturday, and he has his own thing, and he's amazing. But this is going to be really good, I think, for me. I think that I needed something like that. I'm one of those people that, if I don't schedule it, it won't get done. For some people, if you're like me in any way, that might be something that you just put it in the calendar and treat it respectfully. It's on the calendar. Don't make some other type of plans because it's just your kid and you guys can reschedule. Honor it and make it that essential, that important date that you have that quarter.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I love it. I will absolutely get that book. And here's the other magical thing that happens in a beautiful, focused, connective setting like that. We get to also make sure that our kids are asked, what do you want? How are you? What's going on, right? So much of where we are all sitting is a function of the fact that in the generations that preceded us, it wasn't about that, right? Like I said, we are the consciousness revolution. We have research available to us that no one ever knew before to understand. I mean, look at Brene Brown's research on connection, right? Look at what we're learning in terms of neuroscience, changing your brain. Look at Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset. So when you have a day with your child and you are teaching them through that day by sheerly being there, you are so important. You are so important. And then you can have the kind of conversations like, how are you? Do you want that? What do you like? What's important to you? You start to teach them how to live their own lives. And that's how we really actually make generational change.
I love that. Tracy, how do our followers get more of you? Because I have loved every second of this and I don't want it to end, but I know it has to eventually. So how do I find you more? How do our followers find you more? How do we get more Tracy in our lives?
Thank you. I received that. I received that, right, and get more lit. The Lit Factor. And it's LITT, so it's lit with 2 T's. The best places are to come to the website where everything lives, thelitfactor.com, or to come hang out on Instagram at The Lit Factor.
I love it. Thank you so much, Tracy, for coming on the show today. I can't wait to just get more of you and have you back on later on to talk about some of the other things that you discuss, like the fear of success and money and all of that. I think that we can just glean so much from you. So thank you for your vulnerability and sharing some of your story with us as well.
Thank you. This was absolutely amazing. The show, the 3 of you, is such a gift. Such a gift that you've created this space, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
All right, that's a wrap for this episode of The Brave Talk Show. If you are watching us on YouTube, there are more episodes that you will love on that window to the right, and we'll see you on the other side.
Bye.
I have some questions for you. Hey, brave girl.